It was just past midnight in downtown Chicago. The streets were almost empty, except for the sound of tires rolling over rainwater and the faint hum of streetlights. Ethan Parker, a 34-year-old software engineer, drove home from another long, lonely shift. Every night, he took the same route, and every night, he passed the same alley behind a closed diner. There, under a flickering streetlight, sat an old man wrapped in a torn brown blanket, his beard gray, his eyes calm but filled with something deeper. Ethan didn't know his name, only that he always sat in the same spot, never begged, never spoke, just quietly existed. One night, something inside Ethan told him to stop. He parked his car, grabbed his leftover dinner from the passenger seat, and walked toward the man. "Hey," Ethan said softly. "You hungry?" The man looked up. His eyes were tired but kind. He didn't say a word, just nodded. Ethan handed him the food, expecting nothing in return. But as he turned to leave, the man spoke for the first time. "Thank you, Ethan." Ethan froze. How do you know my name?" The man smiled faintly, his voice low and almost whispering. "Good deeds echo, even when you don't remember where they began." Ethan stared, confused and unsettled, before slowly walking back to his car. As he drove away, he glanced in the rearview mirror. The man was still there, eating quietly in the rain. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. Something about the man's words felt too personal, too knowing, like he wasn't a stranger at all. And yet, Ethan had no idea that this meeting was just the beginning of a story that would change everything he thought he knew about kindness, guilt, and fate. The next night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about that old man. The rain had cleared, the city was quiet again, but his mind was. The way the man had said his name, Ethan, it kept echoing in his head like a whisper he couldn't escape. He told himself it was a coincidence. Maybe the man overheard someone. Maybe he saw his name tag once. But deep down, something felt off. Still, guilt pulled him back to that same alley the next evening. When he arrived, the old man wasn't there. Just an empty coffee cup and a folded napkin resting inside. Ethan frowned, stepped closer, and picked it up. The napkin was damp, but words were scribbled on it in shaky handwriting. "Some debts can't be repaid with food." Ethan's stomach tightened. He looked around, no one. The streetlight above flickered again, the same way it did last night. He waited for a few minutes, hoping the man would return, but he didn't. So Ethan left another box of food beside the cup and drove away, glancing in the mirror again. But this time the alley stayed empty. That night his dreams were strange. He saw flashes, a hospital room, a young man crying, a broken wristwatch ticking endlessly beside a hospital bed, and in the corner of the room, that same old man just watching. He woke up drenched in sweat. By morning, Ethan was restless. He skipped work and returned to the alley. The cup was gone, so was the napkin, but in its place was something else, a small metal tag covered in dirt. He brushed it off. It had an inscription, "To Ethan from Dad." Ethan froze. His breath hitched. It couldn't be. His father's tag had been buried with him years ago. His heart pounded as his eyes darted around the alley, searching, hopping, fearing. "Hello, is someone here?" he called out. Silence, just the faint rustle of wind. Ethan stumbled back, gripping the tag tight, his chest rising and falling rapidly. The city felt different now, heavier, like every corner was watching him. And as he got into his car, he saw something in his rearview mirror again, a shadow at the far end of the alley, a tall figure standing under the flickering light, still watching him drive away. But when he blinked, the figure was gone. That night the voice echoed again in his head, calm, low, familiar. "Good deeds echo, Ethan, even when you don't remember where they began." Ethan gripped the tag tighter, because somehow he was starting to believe this wasn't about helping a stranger anymore. It was about uncovering a truth he'd buried long ago. The morning light poured weakly through Ethan's blinds, but he hadn't slept. The metal tag lay on his kitchen counter, dull, worn, but impossibly real. He ran his thumb over the engraving again and again. "To Ethan from Dad." He could still remember the day his father gave it to him, his 12th birthday at the lake. His dad had said, "If you ever get lost, this will remind you who's always looking out for you." That was years before the heart attack, before the funeral, before everything changed. But now the tag was here, in an alley behind a diner, where it shouldn't be. He needed answers. Ethan decided to visit his mother's old house on the outskirts of the city. She passed away years ago, but he still kept some of their things there. The air inside smelled of dust and memory. He went through an old photo box, birthdays, vacations, awkward teenage smiles, until his fingers froze on a picture he didn't recognize. It was an old black and white photo, a bit torn at the edges. His father stood in front of a hospital building, smiling, but beside him was someone else, the homeless man from the alley. Younger, clean-shaven, but unmistakably the same face. Ethan's breath caught. He flipped the photo over. In faded ink it read, Franklin and James, St. Mary's Veterans Clinic, 1987. Franklin, Ethan whispered, Dad's friend. He remembered his father talking about a war buddy once, someone who saved his life overseas. But his dad said Franklin died in a fire years ago. Ethan sat back, the photo trembling in his hand. So why is he alive and living on the streets? Suddenly, the quiet was broken by a creak. The front door, the one he'd locked, was slightly open. He froze. Footsteps echoed softly down the hall. Who's there? Ethan called, voice shaking. No answer. Just another slow, deliberate step. He grabbed a metal lamp, heart hammering in his chest, and moved toward the living room. The air felt colder now, and then the front door slammed shut. He spun around, no one. But on the table where he'd left the photo, there was something new. Another napkin, damp, smudged with dirt. He picked it up. The handwriting was the same shaky script as before. You were never supposed to find the truth this way. His pulse raced. He looked toward the window, and there he saw him. Across the street, standing still, the same old man from the alley, watching. Their eyes met. For the first time, Ethan noticed something haunting in that face, guilt. Deep, unbearable guilt. Before Ethan could move, a passing bus blocked the view. And when it rolled away, the man was gone again. Ethan sank to his knees, clutching the napkin and the photo. His father's friend wasn't dead. He'd been here all along, but why hide? Why now? And most importantly, what did he mean by the truth? Outside, thunder rolled in the distance. Inside, Ethan whispered to himself, Dad, what did you do? The next morning, the storm had passed, but the air still carried that metallic smell of rain and unease. Ethan hadn't slept again. The photo of his father and Franklin sat on the counter beside the metal tag and the napkin, three pieces of a puzzle that didn't belong together, yet somehow fit too perfectly. He brewed a cup of coffee he didn't drink and sat in silence, staring at the photo. St. Mary's Veterans Clinic, he muttered. He remembered that name. His father used to volunteer there after retiring from the army. But when Ethan was a kid, he was never allowed to visit. His father always said, some places aren't meant for children to see. Now, years later, that warning sounded less protective and more ominous. Ethan decided to return to his parents' old house again. This time, not for memories, for answers. The house groaned as he walked through it, the wood creaking like it remembered every step. Dust motes floated in the sunlight, slicing through broken blinds. He went down to the basement, a place he hadn't entered since his father's funeral. The smell of damp concrete and old paper filled the air. He pulled the chain for the single hanging bulb. A weak orange light flickered on. Boxes, stacks of them, marked with dates, hospital symbols, and file codes. One caught his eye, labeled in his father's handwriting. St. Mary's Records, 1986-1990. Ethan's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were old patient files, yellowed, brittle, but organized with care. He skimmed through names until he froze again. Patient name, Franklin Cole. Status, deceased. Filed 1989. Remarks classified, Project Resilience. Deceased, yet Franklin was alive. Ethan's pulse quickened as he flipped through more papers. There were dozens of files marked Project Resilience. Veterans, injuries, brain trauma, notes written in his father's handwriting, words that made no sense to him, memory resequencing, conscious retention trial, post-mortem stability. His heart dropped. What were you doing, Dad? And then something fell. A metal drawer half open. Inside, a stack of VHS tapes, each labeled with a date and location. One of them read, St. Mary's Clinic, Patient 14, Franklin C. Final session. Ethan swallowed hard. He plugged in an old player connected to a dusty TV in the corner and pressed play. The screen flickered with static. Then an image appeared. His father, younger, in a white lab coat, sitting across from Franklin. Franklin, his father said calmly on the tape, do you remember the procedure? Franklin looked broken, tired, but he nodded. I remember everything you said, James, and I remember what you promised. You said this would help me forget what I did. Ethan's breath caught. His father's voice turned colder, and it will. After tonight, the pain will fade. The footage shook slightly as Franklin's expression changed, fear mixed with regret. James, I don't think we should. Then the screen went black. No ending, no sound, just static. Ethan stared, frozen. The tape had cut off, or someone had erased the rest. Suddenly, the faint sound of footsteps echoed upstairs. He turned off the TV instantly. The air went still. Someone was in the house. Again, he grabbed a rusted wrench and crept up the stairs, heartbeat pounding in his ears. The door at the top of the steps was slightly open. Hello, he whispered. No answer. But on the kitchen counter beside the old photo, lay something new. A folded napkin, damp again. He opened it slowly, hands shaking. "You're closer than you think. Stop digging before you can't turn back." Ethan dropped the napkin and looked around wildly. Through the window, a figure moved past the edge of the yard, slow, deliberate. The same man, Franklin, watching again. Ethan bolted to the door, but by the time he stepped outside, the street was empty. The only sound left was the faint hum of static still coming from the basement. He stood there clutching the napkin, whispering to himself, "Dad, what did you and Franklin do?" The wind answered with silence. Ethan couldn't get the sound of that static out of his head. It followed him all night, like it had burrowed into his brain. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Franklin's terrified face frozen on the screen, and his father's cold stare just before the tape cut off. By morning, he'd made a decision. He was done running from ghosts. If there were more tapes, he would find them. He returned to the basement, flashlight in hand. The smell of dust and damp metal grew thicker the deeper he went. His footsteps echoed in the silence like whispers from the past. He pulled the remaining VHS tapes from the drawer, each one labeled differently, each date just days apart. Then one caught his eye. It wasn't like the others. The handwriting was rushed, uneven, almost panicked. The label read, "Do not play 15, confidential." Ethan's throat went dry. What the hell is this? He plugged it in. The screen flickered static, and then an image appeared. A dim hospital room. His father stood beside a gurney. Franklin lay on it, pale, lifeless, eyes closed. Machines beeped softly in the background. A nurse's voice. "He didn't make it, sir, should I call it?" But his father didn't respond. He was staring at something, a small metal device connected to Franklin's temple. Then his father whispered, "Start the sequence." The nurse hesitated. "Sir, it's not ready." "Do it," his father snapped. The screen shook. Franklin's body convulsed once. Then again, the monitor screamed with erratic noise. Ethan flinched as the camera zoomed in. Franklin's eyes opened, not with life but confusion, terror. His voice cracked through the speakers. Where am I? What did you do to me?" Ethan's father leaned close. "You're okay, Franklin. You're going to be okay. We fixed it. You won't remember the pain anymore." Franklin began crying, broken, childlike sobs. "You shouldn't have brought me back." The screen flickered again, the picture breaking into lines of static. And then another voice came through. Not Franklin, not his father's. A child's voice. "Dad." Ethan's heart nearly stopped. It was his own voice, younger, faint, like it was echoing through a dream. On the tape, his father turned sharply toward the camera. Then the screen cut to black. Ethan stumbled back, shaking. "No, that's impossible." "How?" Before he could finish, the basement lights flickered. The static on the TV turned to white noise again, but this time, faint shapes began to appear. A shadowy figure standing behind him. He turned instantly, nothing there. Just cold air and the hum of the old bulb. Then a soft tap echoed from upstairs. 3 knocks. Slow, measured. He climbed the steps, every breath tight, wrench still in hand. The front door was closed, but the mail slot had something sticking out. A single, folded napkin. He pulled it out, heart pounding. "You shouldn't have watched that." Beneath it, another object fell to the floor. A small silver dog tag, identical to his own. Ethan picked it up, his hands trembling. The engraving was fresh, not old or rusted like his. It read, "To Franklin from James," his father's name. Ethan dropped the tag, whispering, "Oh my God." Dad didn't just experiment on Franklin. He brought him back. The camera of the scene would slowly zoom in on his face, pale, eyes wide, realization flooding in like ice water. And from somewhere outside, a familiar voice called softly through the rain, "Ethan, it's time you knew the truth." The sound came from the alley, the same alley where this nightmare began. Ethan stepped out into the night, heart pounding, gripping both tags in his hand. Behind him, the TV in the basement flickered back on by itself, showing only one word on the static screen. "Run." The rain came down in sheets, turning the alley into a river of reflections, streetlights bending and breaking in every puddle. Ethan's shoes splashed through the water as he gripped both dog tags in his hand. His heart was a drumline of panic and determination. "Franklin," he shouted into the dark, "I know you're here." At first, only silence answered. Then a shadow moved. A figure stepped out from behind the dumpster, slow, deliberate. It was him, the old man, Franklin. His soaked coat clung to his body, his eyes hollow but alive, too alive. Ethan took a step back. "You need to tell me what's going on. What did my father do to you?" Franklin just stared. His lips trembled as if every word hurt. "Your father," he said slowly, voice gravelly, "he thought he could fix what the war broke. In me, in himself, in everyone." Ethan's chest tightened. Project Resilience. Franklin nodded weakly. "It started with memory therapy for soldiers to erase trauma. But your father, he went further. He wanted to erase death itself." Ethan's breath hitched. That's impossible. Franklin's cracked lips twisted into a haunted smile. So was I until he made it happen. He stepped closer, and Ethan could finally see his face under the flickering streetlight. Faint scars ran along his temples where the metal device had once been attached. The skin there pulsed faintly, almost alive. After the fire at the clinic, Franklin said, everyone thought I died, but your father saved me, brought me back. Only it wasn't really me anymore. He said I'd live without pain, without memory, but he was wrong. I remember everything. He touched his chest, trembling. The burning, the screaming, him saying, just a little longer, Franklin, for Ethan's sake. Ethan's mind reeled. For my sake, what does that mean? Franklin's eyes met his, wet with rain and tears. Because you were dying too. The world stopped for Ethan. What? Franklin nodded. You were 12. You had the same genetic condition that killed your mother. Your father couldn't handle losing you, so he tested the same process on me first before using it on you. Ethan stumbled back, shaking his head. No, that's not true. I remember getting sick, but you don't remember dying, Franklin said softly. But you did. Ethan's knees went weak. The rain soaked his face, or maybe those were tears. Franklin reached into his pocket and pulled out another object, small, metallic, and familiar, a broken fragment of a medical implant. He used this on both of us. When he realized what he'd done, he destroyed the lab, burned the evidence, tried to bury everything, including me. Lightning flashed, and in that moment, Ethan saw the truth in Franklin's eyes. Pain, grief, and guilt that ran deeper than madness. Ethan whispered, "Then why are you following me?" Franklin looked away. Because the process didn't end when your father died. It's failing. In both of us. He took a shaky breath. You felt it, haven't you? The static, the ringing, the dreams that don't belong to you. Ethan's pulse raced. He had the nightmares, the flickering visions, the voice of a child saying, "Dad," in the dark. Franklin's voice broke. It's not your imagination. The resequencing, it's collapsing. We're both fatted. Ethan stepped forward, desperate. Then help me stop it. Franklin's expression softened. That's why I came back, Ethan. To give you what your father never could. He reached into his coat again, this time pulling out a worn, waterproof envelope. Inside was a single photograph. Ethan as a boy, sitting beside his father at the lake. On the back, written in James's familiar handwriting, "If he ever comes looking, tell him the truth before it's too late." Ethan looked up, but Franklin was already stepping back into the rain. "Franklin, wait," Ethan shouted, but the old man just shook his head. "You don't stop what's already dead, son. You just learn how to say goodbye." He turned and disappeared into the storm, leaving Ethan alone under the flickering light, the photograph trembling in his hand. The rain washed the dirt away from his father's words, and as Ethan read them again, something inside him broke. The truth wasn't just horrifying, it was personal. He whispered through the thunder, "Dad, what did you bring me back from?" The screen fades to black, the sound of thunder rolling into silence. The house was silent except for that sound, the low, rhythmic thump-thump echoing from below. Ethan stood frozen at the top of the basement stairs, his breath coming in shallow bursts. The hum beneath the floorboards pulsed like something alive, syncing with the faint, broken rhythm of his heartbeat. He reached for the light switch, but before his finger touched it, the bulb above him flickered on by itself. A cold blue glow flooded the stairwell. Dust floated in the air like ash. Each step creaked under his weight as he descended. Halfway down, he whispered, "Dad, what did you build down here?" The air grew colder, metallic. The smell of oil and ozone filled his lungs. When he reached the bottom, the light flickered again, revealing the basement walls lined with old monitors, cables snaking across the floor, and in the center, a massive cylindrical machine. It pulsed, literally. The metal surface expanded and contracted, breathing in slow, mechanical rhythm. Faint blue light glowed from inside, casting moving shadows across the room. Ethan stepped closer, hand trembling, drawn like a moth to flame. On a nearby table lay his father's old medical journal, open, soaked from a ceiling drip. The page was marked Phase IV Core Integration. Scrawled notes covered the margins. Subject stable after transfer. Neural sync complete. Heart rate dependent on external core function. Do not shut down under any circumstance. Ethan's pulse spiked. External core. He turned to the machine, realizing the truth. The faint heartbeat he'd been hearing, it wasn't his own. It was this. He stumbled backward, heart pounding. No, that's impossible. But then a monitor flickered to life. Static washed over the screen, then slowly resolved into a shaky video feed. His father appeared, older, exhausted, standing in the same basement. "Ethan," the recording began, voice trembling, "if you're seeing this, it means the system is collapsing. I never wanted you to find it like this." Ethan's knees nearly buckled. "Dad," he whispered. The video continued. "After you died, I couldn't let go. I used Franklin's prototype. I told myself it was just memory preservation, but I went too far. I reanimated your body, linked it to this core. It doesn't just sustain you, it is you. Your heart, your cells, your memories, all of it runs through the machine now." Ethan's eyes widened, horror settling like leaves. "I thought I was saving you," his father said, voice cracking. "But the process, it was unstable. Every time you sleep, the neural sync resets. That's why you dream of the fire, the screams. You're reliving your own death over and over." The screen glitched, his father's face distorted, lines of static crawling across his eyes. "I tried to destroy the core," he said, voice warping, "but it's alive now. It learned. It feeds on the energy we gave it. It won't let go of you, Ethan. It won't let go of either of us." The video cut to black. For a long moment, Ethan just stood there, rainwater dripping from his coat, his breath shaking. Then he heard it, a faint whisper from within the machine. Not mechanical, human. "Ethan." He froze. "Dad." The whisper came again, louder this time, layered, like a chorus of voices buried under static. "Ethan, help me." The machine's pulse quickened. The metal panels rippled like muscle tissue, veins of blue light crawling through them. Something inside moved. Ethan staggered forward, gripping the cold metal. "What are you?" he shouted. The voice murmured, broken and sad. "I'm what's left of him and you." The hum turned into a roar. The lights burst. Sparks rained from the ceiling. Ethan fell backward, the machine glowing brighter and brighter until it lit the entire basement in blinding blue. Then silence. Ethan lay on the ground, shaking, staring at the now still machine. The light had faded. The heartbeat had stopped. But when he looked down at his own chest, his pulse had stopped too. Darkness. For a long moment there was nothing, no sound, no pain, no heartbeat, just silence. Then a faint hum began to rise, familiar, rhythmic, like a pulse trapped beneath layers of static. Ethan opened his eyes, but the world around him wasn't the same basement. It was bleeding between two realities. The machines glowed faintly in one moment, then flickered into a forest, then into a hospital room. Everything pulsed like a damaged recorder, switching frames between memory and dream. He tried to move. His limbs felt heavy, delayed, as if his body was remembering motion rather than performing it. "Hello," he called out, but his voice echoed, repeating itself seconds later from behind him. Then from the static fog, his father appeared, or something that looked like him. The figure's face flickered between human and distortion, his eyes hollow but kind. "Ethan," the voice came from everywhere, not the lips. "You have to stabilize. The resonance has begun." Ethan stepped back. "What does that mean? Am I dead?" His father smiled faintly, a ghost of warmth in his trembling voice. "Not dead, not alive. You're in between, the systems merging your neural echo with the core's consciousness. Every memory, every emotion, it's all fusing." Ethan's hands shook. "You mean I'm becoming the machine?" His father's face twitched, the human side flickered away, replaced by static. "No, the machine is becoming you. It's learning emotion, identity, but it doesn't know the difference between grief and survival. That's why it's dangerous." The scene around them shifted again. Suddenly Ethan was 12 years old, sitting by the lake with his father. The sky was bright, the air peaceful, but the reflection in the water wasn't his. It was the man he'd become, pale, frightened, with blue veins glowing faintly beneath his skin. He whispered, "This isn't real." The world rippled. His father, younger now, placed a hand on his shoulder. "It's a memory, but memories are real to the mind that believes them." Ethan looked up, tears mixing with confusion. "Why did you bring me back, Dad?" His father hesitated, his voice cracking. "Because I couldn't live without you. I thought if I could save your body, I'd save you. But I only trapped you here, halfway between the world and the wires." The sky darkened. The water in the lake turned black. The hum returned louder now, vibrating through the ground, through Ethan's chest. The reflection began to distort, showing not Ethan but hundreds of versions of him, each one screaming silently, their eyes glowing blue. "Make it stop," Ethan cried, clutching his head. His father's image glitched, reaching for him. "You have to shut it down before it absorbs you completely. Destroy the core. It's the only way to end this." "But if I do that," Ethan gasped, realization dawning. "I'll die for real this time." His father's eyes softened. "Then you'll finally be free." The lake shattered like glass. The world collapsed into pure static. Ethan awoke on the basement floor, gasping. The machine stood before him again, alive, pulsing faster, brighter, the hum now deafening. He could hear whispers coming from it, thousands of voices calling his name. He staggered to his feet, tears streaking down his face. "I'm not your heartbeat," he whispered. "I'm not your prisoner." He reached toward the power conduit, the same one his father had labeled, "Do not shut down." The machine screamed. The room shook. Memories flashed: his mother, Franklin, the hospital, his father's last smile. All of it unraveling pixel by pixel. And as he grabbed the switch, the voices cried out in unison, not in anger but in fear. "Ethan, please don't leave us." He closed his eyes, whispered, "Goodbye, Dad," and pulled the switch. Everything went white. Silence, then a single heartbeat. It was Ethan. It wasn't anyone. It was the sound of something remembering. The world was gone, the basement, the machine, the noise. In its place, a calm field stretched to the horizon, bathed in soft gold light. The air shimmered gently like the inside of a dream. Ethan stood there barefoot, wearing the same shirt he'd worn that night. There were no wounds, no pain, only peace. He looked around. The grass moved with the wind, but there was no sun, no shadow, just warmth and the faint hum beneath his feet. "Dad," he whispered, and from the far distance, a figure began walking toward him, slow, steady, familiar. His father, smiling, not flickering this time. "Human again." "I told you," his father said gently. "If you ever get lost, this will remind you who's looking out for you." Ethan looked down. The metal tag was back around his neck, gleaming softly. He touched it, tears rising. "Am I gone?" His father nodded. "You finished the story. You freed us both." Ethan took a shaky breath. "Then what is this place?" "The in-between," his father said. "The echo left behind when love refuses to die. The core may be gone, but memory doesn't end. It transforms." They stood side by side, watching the horizon shimmer like liquid light. And then, slowly, the field began to fade, replaced by a faint static ripple, like a heartbeat turning into data. Somewhere far away, back in the real world, a small backup light flickered inside the destroyed machine. A weak signal pulsed once, twice, then stabilized. On a nearby monitor, a single line of text appeared. "Hello, Dad." Then darkness again, but this time the silence felt alive.